everyone. Welcome to Beacons of Balance. Here we are today on this beautiful day, and I'm here with Miss Linda and our guest speaker, Mr. Mel. I want to welcome everyone here. Thank you for tuning in and to either listening, watching, doing both. And Beacons of Balance is all about balance. And we're here to share little pearls with you to bring some cohesiveness into each of our lives. So Linda's going to introduce Mel to you. And
well, all you guys know that Mel is my brother from another mother. And I met Mel through a client of his who said, you've got to get together with this psychic in Chicago. And I looked at his webpage. He's been around. He's done television. He's done radio too, right?
That's radio.
He's helped find missing people. So I thought, well, let me check this guy out. So him and I got together, and he came up just to check out my Sedona event, and he loved it. And we just started working together. We're having a ball. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's
and
fun.
We're also doing an event in September in Chicago, where he lives. September 20 what?
Our
26, 27, 20, something like that. If you call his office, you can get the info. But anyway, so he met Arlene in Catskills. He came to Catskills.
Prior to that, though, I did have a reading with Mel.
Oh, you did?
Right. Yes, you did.
I don't remember because you guys have so many people, but I did have a reading with you a while back.
Oh, no, I remember the reading. I remember it was a good thing. I don't mean it.
Right.
But anyway, so Mel, tell us about Mel.
You know, I started doing my psychic readings when I was 18, and I'm 70. So do the math. That's a long time. I've been doing this longer than some people that they've been born, you know. But, you know, my dad would have dreams that would come true. He was very intuitive or psychic. I use the terms interchangeably. And his dad, my grandfather, who came from Germany on my dad's side, could find water with a stick. And I used to watch my dad and grandpa do it. It was kind of cool.
Dowsing. That's dowsing.
This dowsing.
That's dowsing, yeah.
Yeah, I can do it too, not as good as they could.
Yeah.
But it's just something I could always do. It was just with me, and I thought everybody could do it. And one of the earliest memories I have, I think I was in first or second grade, and I just had a feeling that my grandfather, Doerr, or in German is Doerr, had died. He'd been sick. When I came home, I looked at Mom and I said, did Grandpa die today? And she was crying. And she said, how did you know that? And I said, I just knew. You know, it was claircognizance. You don't know how you know, you just know. And then when I was, when I was 12, my mother was a phenomenal cook, and she was the cook. And in those days, the bowling alleys had restaurants, and she was the cook.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And she'd also wait the tables and then cooks food, go figure. Wow. But one of the ladies who worked there, I saw her doing my mom's cards. And I said, I want you to do mine. And she didn't tell me I was too young. And she pulled a card. She goes, you can do what I can do. You have the gift. And I think I was like 11 or 12. And she said, it's going to come to you. I think she said the number 8. You could be 18. It could be whatever. Well, that's all I had to hear. I got my first pack of Gypsy Witch cards, and I learned how to read those. And so when I was 18, I started doing readings. But I went to college and I got my master's in psychology because I was interested in psychic stuff. And that didn't explain it. My mother had a first cousin who lived in Chicago, and we were poor when we were kids, but every now and again we'd make a trip here to Chicago. And I always said, that's where I'm going to live. So when I finished college, I moved here, and I was a social worker for 10 years in geriatrics, but I did my psychic work at nights and on the weekends. So after 10 years of that, I just said, I'm doing my psychic work full time, and here I am. So that's the long version.
Let me ask you something, because you just hit on, you said you worked at geriatrics with social work. So I'm sure a lot of course, that's elderly and maybe some people that were crossing over or anything like that. Did you get that information because you had the gift hits with them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not all.
I have a medical, like Linda, I was an x-ray technician. After I closed my angel shop, I got divorced, whatever, I went back to a former career and I was a mobile x-ray tech. So I used to go cover nursing homes. And that wasn't my gig, but I would walk in and they're out of it, they're drugged up, a lot of them or so, and they would smile at me and they would be looking, and I had to turn around like I'm looking, and I was bringing the angels in with me. They saw them, wow. And I would talk to them, and a lot of them, were out of it, but then they would get with it when I was there, and they would tell me, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And I said, well, there's a cord, our silver cord too. And I said, you could cut that anytime you want to, honey. Well, a week after I just started this job, another tech, she used to pull the file. Back then it was the hard copies, the x-rays, not like it's computer.
Oh, yeah.
So she would clear out the rack every weekend when she would look at the obituaries, right? So she had a stack of them, and I came in. I was new onto the job. She goes, Arlene, I go, what? And she goes, look at this pile. She said, you were the last person to go into x-ray these people. They died after you left. I'm like, oh shit. I said, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. They're going to think I'm Kevorkian. So I had to stop talking about it. I was just like, forget it. But anyways, I was just curious about that, being that you were in that field, if you were also, tying that in with it,
I had a thing that if I knew somebody was dying, and sometimes the families wouldn't come around for who knows what reason, but that I thought, if that were me or a family member of mine laying there, what would I do? And I wouldn't want them to be alone. So there were times I would stay the night there or hold their hands until they died. But I would send them telepathic messages like, it's okay to let go. It's okay to let go. It's okay to cross over and go to the light. And a lot of times, if they were out of it, they would open their eyes and have a lucid moment and say, oh, so-and-so's here, who was like an angel or a dead relative or something. And I saw that numerous times. And it was funny and I was with a lot of patients when they did cross over. And it's funny, you can almost feel their soul lifting going to the other side. And I got cold chills. That happened numerous times.
I volunteered at hospice. I was in the pastoral care department. Okay. And as you know, you let them talk. I had to zip this and let them express everything.
Hard for me sometimes, but I listened.
Yeah. But after a while, they wanted to know about, everything. But I say when they're ready to leave, including I was with my own mother, and that you could, like you said, it's palpable. You could feel it. You could feel, it's so beautiful. People are afraid of it. Family members, they don't want it. Like you said, people don't show up because they're afraid of it. They don't want to acknowledge it. But what a gift. I felt so blessed to be there. And I remember walking into hospice, because I would come from, of course I had my business and everything. And I would have maybe a tough day, personal stuff going on. As soon as I opened up that door, it was like, whoosh, everything was gone. Everything was gone. I was just present there. And this world would be different if people could volunteer in a hospice situation where people are crossing. A lot of people can't do it, or babies being born, because the realms are open on each side then.
Puppies.
Well, anything being born, right? Or leaving, right. Either way. Because my little Yorkie, she was 19 and did not want to go.
No.
She did not want to go. She was curled up like a little cat in a basket. And I had sage. I smudged her. I was playing music, singing, releasing, and she wanted to stay.
Well, she's on the other side having a good time.
Oh, I know. I know that. That.
It's funny. A lot of times people would ask me, what's it like when you are with somebody when they die? Or I say when they cross over, because I don't believe we die. And I would say, there's that palatable, that palpable feeling that you get that the soul has left. But I think people want to know is that there's this blare of trumpets and this big, and it's not. It's just very peaceful when they take their last breath. And then you can feel like just this energy shift, and you can feel that soul leaving. But it's not like trumpets blaring or things like that. It's just, it's a very subtle feeling, but yet you can feel it.
Yeah, because like that woman said, there's no such thing as death. You're not the woman that was dead under the water for 30 minutes. She said, you're alive and then you're more alive. You're conscious and then you're more conscious. It's just an awakening.
Right. Absolutely. That's right. So after doing that for a while, I just wanted to do my psychic work. And I stopped being a social worker and I started doing this. And there was a radio show here I went on. This was many years ago. And a producer at one of the TV shows heard me and asked me to come and do a television show, my first TV show. I watched the footage of it, way back when. I was like, but they liked it. And so it was a big show here in Chicago. And from there, I became a regular on the show. It's called Lifestyle. And Pat Sheffer, who hosted the show, she won Women in Cable Award, all kinds of stuff. She just passed away recently. I just found out.
Oh, wow.
But she was really a pioneer. And, I've done national television and then radio and national radio and all kinds of stuff. And I started doing a lot of forensics cases on missing people and murder cases. So I've done a lot.
That's interesting.
Yep.
So how did you read the case, or or are you also, and I don't know what the term is when you hold an object, what's that called?
I use psychometry.
Psychometry. Yeah. Did you use that?
You can. I worked on a case, I forgot how it came about. Actually, it was a missing person. I said, they're still alive. They're in Florida, blah, blah, blah. And then word got around. Now, if it was a murder case or a big profile case, I would never call the police department, offer information. And I get a lot of people from YouTube asking me, oh, I got a hit on a case. I'm going to call. And I say, don't. Because the police departments get inundated by calls from people saying they're psychic. And I've actually seen cases where people got in trouble because psychically they knew too much and that made them a suspect. So you got to be with it.
There was a nurse on Unsolved Mysteries that got a hit on a nurse that was missing. And she just got in her car and drove up to the house. And then she saw those white shoes and found the body. She served jail time because they thought she had something to do with it.
Right. I've seen that. In fact, there was a very famous case here in Chicago called the Dwalibi case. And it was a little girl who went missing. And the police department came to the person I used to work with on criminal cases, Linda Petrine, another Linda. Linda was excellent on missing persons. And Linda called me in on the case a little bit later, but Linda said, unfortunately she's deceased. She described where they would find the body, blah, blah, blah. And she told the family this. So when the FBI came to talk to the child's stepfather, he said, was the body in this position? Did you find it here? And what he described is exactly what Linda had seen and what I had seen. So I told her, I said, Linda, you better be very careful because you're going to get called to court on this. And she said, you're crazy. Well, she was the first psychic in the state of Illinois to be called to court on a murder case for the defendant. And the stepfather was found guilty, but later his case was overturned because of some of the stuff we're talking about. It was a really famous case. There was a book written about Rob.
So he murdered this old girl.
He didn't. They said he did, but he didn't. His case.
What do you think? Did he or didn't he?
Linda and I felt that he wasn't the perpetrator. We think the perpetrator was an uncle of the child.
Did they ever find out? Did they ever solve it?
Well, the problem was, there's a book written, Gone in the Night by Dave Protease and Rob Warren. And I remember Linda and I going down to NBC to talk to them about this case after the stepfather had been indicted, but he was later found not guilty. The case was overturned. The police department, though, always said he was guilty because they didn't want egg on their face. Other investigators investigated the uncle, who was a paranoid schizophrenic, but a lot of the evidence pointed to the uncle, and the case is still open, by the way.
Wow. How many years ago was that?
Oh, goodness, 20 or 30 years ago.
Wow.
So if police department, if like a family member would come to me or Linda or both of us together, we would take a case on the following stipulations. One, there was no pay. We didn't want to get paid for it. Two, that we would not go to the press. And three, that if the police came to us we would no longer have anything to do with the family members. And the reason for that is because a lot of times a family member is a prime suspect or a person of interest. And so,
it gets all entangled.
Correct. And there was Joy, and she was a forensic sketch artist, and we'd work for to try to find a perpetrator. If it was a murder case, we would describe what we thought the perpetrator would look like, and she would draw it. And it was really neat. So
wow, that's fascinating. So you did that, and then did you just step away from it, or how?
Well, I did that, and I did my readings. I charged for my readings, of course, but the police work we did.
You just did it. Yes.
Well, you have to pay it back, and you have to pay it forward.
Yeah, exactly.
So we did it because we felt it was our way to give back.
Yes.
Well, and I have a blessing from the Pope from my work with Missing.
I saw that from what Pope Paul II, and he was sainted. How did you get that?
Were you in Italy?
Yes. A friend of mine whose brother-in-law was the Archbishop of Naples. There was a case in Italy, and it was about something about a gun and mafia, organized crime there. And they asked for my opinion, and I gave it. So I was working in another case at the time, and they told the Pope about it and whatever, and he said, I'll give him my blessing. So I got the blessing.
Wow, that's something. Really something.
Yeah, that's why when you go out for tea or coffee or a drink with him, he's got so many stories.
He brings it around with him. Hello.
Well, off the top of your head, I've worked on so many of them, it's hard to think, but when you start talking about it, they come back, it's like, whoa.
So I want to ask you something. This could go to you, Linda, also. The difference between a medium and psychic. My understanding is psychic people, we all have our intuition, that they get their hits, they use, crystals, cards, whatever it could be. All right. And they're more about the past, present, future. And mediums are more connecting to the other side of the deceased loved ones. I know everybody throws labels out there. This is what and a medium could be both, could be a medium and a psychic, but they say a psychic isn't a medium.
I disagree with that.
Okay. Yeah. I want to clarity. That's all. Just for our audience sake.
I'm an old spiritualist from way back when. A lot of times people think mediumship is talking to the dearly departed. That's true. It is. But we look at all the clairs, the claircognizance, the clairsentience, the clairvoyance, the clairgustance, the clairaroma, the clairaudience.
Gustance? What is that? I haven't heard of that one.
Teeth.
Teeth?
Clairgustance, but I think
Did you say teeth?
No, clairgustance is taste.
Oh, taste. Well, it goes to the teeth first, right?
I think it's clairambience or clairalience is another word for it.
Oh, okay.
But all the clairs, we look at those as forms of mediumship. So when you do the psychic work, where does it come from? It comes from spirit. So what does a medium do? A medium takes what comes from spirit and passes it on. That's my definition. Now, if some other people see it different ways, great. I don't have a problem with that. That's just how I look at it.
So can I ask you, what is it called when you, like I had this woman I read yesterday, and she has a daughter that's very troubled, and I literally could almost step into the daughter's energy. That wasn't mediumship, but I could tell you, she lies, she does this, I was just going off, and the woman's going, yeah, but I didn't become her, but I could feel her energy so strong. What is that?
Well, that's clairsentient. That's clear feeling, but it's also claircognizance. You don't know how you know or what you just know. And going into their energy is also, I think, part of being an empath. Okay. And those are all gifts of spirit, I think.
Okay.
That happens.
Linda, you're just Whoopi Goldberg on Ghost. In the chair, she's going to go.
Yeah.
And then your voice has to start changing.
Linda Grendel Bardon is one of the absolute best psychics I have ever worked with. She has,
thank you, sweetie.
She's phenomenal. She's absolutely.
Thank you.
So
it's true. So, so the difference, so you kind of answered questions I was going to ask you about all the different Clairs, but you kind of covered that already. So that's one.
Yeah, I don't understand them.
And so how would you, go ahead.
Go ahead.
How would you bring to our audience with all of this to bring it into a perspective of balancing it? Because I know from, and I had my store and everything, that a lot of people will come back and back and back. They don't know how to, look inside themselves for answers and that, or they don't want to. They want, it's kind of like the quick fix in USA. Let's give a pill and let it be over with. So like they want that answer constantly, and they, and they want to. I mean, I know somebody that kept going to different readers, different psychics, different mediums until they heard what they wanted to hear.
I call that psychic shopping.
Yeah.
Well, you give them the tools to find the consciousness within, but you can't save them. You can't do that. And I tell people straight out, oh, look, honey, don't, I had one woman that came to see me almost twice a week. She was leaving her husband. And I said, I really don't like you coming in like this, because she said, listen, just to hear you talk is better than going to a psychologist. You just give me hope to move forward. And she used me until she was able to move forward.
Linda, what you're describing doesn't sound like psychic shopping. In other words, what Arlene was saying, I've had people that done that. Oh, I went to all these different people and I said, and they didn't tell you what you wanted to hear. And I tell them, if you're here for me to tell you what you want to hear, I'm the wrong person. I'm not going to. Whereas I think people going through crisis is different. You're not fostering I call it psychic dependence. I don't want my clients to be dependent on me, but yet if it's helping them through a crisis, that's not them being dependent on us. That's us helping them through a crisis. There's a huge difference.
Right. So with the work that you do and everything, it's bringing them comfort to balance them out, so they're not way off this way. It's to even them out.
It's to let people know, in my opinion, that and I get people going through some really hard times. I mean, some things you wouldn't even think of. And just to help them through it and to try to restore their faith in themselves and their faith that they can take their power back and they don't have to be a victim. And that's huge.
That's the whole thing. And a lot of people here live in victimhood.
And you don't have to.
No. And when you live in victimhood, I did for many years.
Right. We all, I think,
I didn't think part of my life was,
I did.
But then when I reflected on it, I was still playing the victim card.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And I try to tolerate everybody, not have judgment. But when they're in victimhood, I get really like, oh, it just drives me like, oh.
That happened to me with somebody who made a choice, and it was like not a good choice. And then, this person is playing the victim and the martyr. And,
Was the first name Donald?
Yeah, right. Adelda. So when they get into the matredom thing, I say, do yourself a favor, get off the cross. We need the wood for the barbecue. I can get by with a lot of humor.
Oh, God. Lord, we're going to have comments on that one now.
And then I can just go on my desk. That's my BS bell. And, I ring it lovingly, and I ring it for myself a lot too. And people don't comment negatively about my get off the cross, we need the wood for the barbecue. I think we all get into martyrdom and victim. And I think we need to identify that in ourselves and step out of it. It's okay to feel it, but don't let it control you. Step out of it.
I talk about like it's playing a long playing record, and you etch it in and you keep talking about it and talking about it. I bump into people from my store that I haven't seen for 20 years, and I used to facilitate a lot of groups, healing groups and everything. And I bump into them, they're still talking, and I'm like, oh dear God.
And they can't help it. You can pray for them that they find a way out, but you can't help them.
And they're trying to seek, they're looking for it, but yet they're not hearing, they're not feeling.
Sometimes they hang on to it because that's the only thing they feel they have to hang on to, and it brings a lot of attention to them. And it's like, but wait a minute, you can let this go and figure out a lot more positive ways to move forward.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. A lot to think about. Well, we're going to wrap up this part, and actually we're going to continue on with Mel.
He has so much
our next week. He's going to come back again for our next week episodes because these air every Wednesday. So Mel, thank you for taking time to be with us. And this was great. We'll continue on the topic and that. So to everyone, Linda,
see the change you want to see.
That's right. It all starts with us. If you want to, whatever you want, you have to be it yourself first. Thank you, everyone, for watching, for listening, hearing. And if you could all subscribe, share, like, make comments, nice ones, hopefully. Tell us what you'd like to hear in the future and to help us grow. And from our hearts to yours, we love all of you. And always for joy, peace, inner peace. If you have inner peace, you have it all. Right?
You got it all. Or if you just be present, just stand in the present. Don't be always worried about the future or thinking of the past. Be present and you will watch everything fall away.
Yep. So we love you guys. Thank you. Take care. Bye, guys.